Pierre LeBrun, man, coming in with the scoop. Let's go over to the Chicago Blackhawks and talk about one of the names that has been discussed on the trade block the past few weeks. It is indeed Alex DeBrincat. Now, we've been talking about DeBrincat as well as a few other players on the Blackhawks the past few days. We talked about Kirby Dach, we talked about his brother Colton Dach, and of course, DeBrincat is the guy that I think everybody kind of has their mindset on mostly, especially when you go over players that might be on the move. Alex DeBrincat has been in the subject of trade discussion so much to the point that Frank Seravalli said it's a when, not if scenario. This guy is going to be traded. It's just a matter of when that is going to happen and where it's going to be to more than anything. DeBrincat is a young player, he's only 24 years old, but he is a guy that could definitely benefit any NHL team going into the long-term future because he has already had 2 40-goal years and multiple 70-point years as well. Not to mention the fact that he was over a point per game in the shortened 2021 campaign, and he had 32 goals in 52 games in that season. He is, for all intents and purposes, a goal-scoring machine. Even though he is only 5'7", 165 pounds, this right-handed forward is astounding. And at a cap hit at $6.4 million a year for one more season, this is a guy that, in the limited sample for next season, could definitely be seen as a steal. Now, he will be an RFA by the time this contract expires, so you're gonna have to go out there and negotiate a big price tag for this guy, considering the amount of talent he possesses, but at the end of the day, he's a young guy, he's a skilled guy, he's a scoring guy, and he is a pretty valuable asset for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, this is a team that we have said is on the verge of probably starting a full-on rebuild sometime sooner or later. Maybe they're not gonna necessarily trade Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews, but when it comes to Dach, when it comes to DeBrincat, when it comes to Kubalik, there are a whole bunch of names that could be expendable because the Blackhawks just kind of want more assets and they want to reset. With this being established, though, we head over onto a new article on The Athletic written by Pierre LeBrun. This is what he writes in this piece, that the Chicago Blackhawks are listening to offers for DeBrincat. There's no guarantee they'll deal him. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take the contrary because Frank Seravalli said the opposite. And the cost won't be cheap. Chicago wants a younger player, a high draft pick, and a top prospect in return. LeBrun writes that the Kings are one of the teams interested. Now, the Kings aside, this Alex DeBrincat trade package return idea is something that should not be too surprising, but it's very nice to go out there and just have that set in stone. Okay, this is the standard. If any GM goes out there and calls up Chicago, Chicago's going to be like, hey, here's our price, and what this trade will do is serve as a benchmark for future business. This right here, a high draft pick, a top prospect, and a young forward, this is the benchmark. Now, to be clear, this type of return isn't really something we've never seen before. Anytime we've talked about these younger guys that are really valuable, that are on the market, you talk about Eichel, you talk about even JT Miller to an extent, this has always been sort of the primary outline for what a team would want in return. And for Alex DeBrincat, it becomes even more challenging because he's younger than JT Miller, he's younger than Jack Eichel, and he does not have that status of being a first-round pick. He is small, nor is he a player that goes out there and produces the same amount of points. Okay, maybe for Eichel, he could probably beat that guy in a scoring race once in a while, but for JT Miller, the guy had 99 points this year. It balances out because of all these factors, and all in all, it just adds another player to the pool of players that could be available for these teams that are interested in shopping their top picks. New Jersey comes to mind, Ottawa comes to mind, the LA Kings are reportedly interested in this player, but when I look at the LA Kings, and we're going to talk about this as well on a later video for today talking about Connor Garland and the Canucks, the LA Kings are a team that you could definitely say could use a little bit more goal scoring, and DeBrincat is a player that provides just that. The fact is, they weren't really supposed to be as good as they were this season, they just kind of made the playoffs because Vegas crapped the bed and missed out, but they did take the Edmonton Oilers to 7 games, and they almost had themselves a chance to win that Game 7 as well. It's just a 2-0 game, anything can happen, right? It's just how the cookie crumbles at the end of the day. But we've talked about this before, but the Kings do have a lot of players that I feel like can become very rounded out goal scorers by the time they hit their primes. Obviously, you have Quinton Byfield. Obviously, you have Alex Turcotte, whom we did discuss a few weeks ago, talking about how unfortunate his development path had gone so far. But you still have Arthur Kaliev. That guy's supposed to be a goal-scoring beast. Victor Edvinsson can definitely provide a scoring touch. And if you go out there and explore some options in free agency, like, I don't know, Philip Forsberg, for example, there could be a pretty good addition of goal scoring. DeBrincat, though, adds that too. So them being a team interested in this player definitely makes sense to me. What I also wanted to do was highlight a few of these other teams that have reportedly been involved in the past. The last DeBrincat video we made, the when not if scenario that Saravalli was talking about, we had ourselves conversations going on about the Philadelphia Flyers, we talked about the New York Islanders, as well as the New Jersey Devils. Now, where this entire thing falls through is that top draft pick. Pierre LeBrun writing about how they want a high pick. New Jersey and Philly are the only two teams that, at the moment, have something like that to offer. New Jersey has the 2nd overall pick. Philadelphia, they have the 5th overall pick. The Islanders have the 13th pick, which isn't bad. I mean, it's a good pick, it's just not a high one. You then have the LA Kings, who made the playoffs, so their pick is 19th overall this season. New Jersey and Philadelphia have a lot more bargaining power when it comes to the quality of that draft pick. And when you come to young forwards and prospects, the Devils and the Flyers definitely do have a few of those in their systems as well. The Flyers just made a trade for a few extra picks with the Claude Giroux deal. They also acquired Owen in that acquisition, and you still have players on that team that could be expendable, like Farabee. You talk about Travis Konechny. The Flyers are in a really interesting spot, especially with John Tortorella as that new head coach. But the question is, what assets of these would the Chicago Blackhawks actually want in an Alex DeBrincat trade? Furthermore, you acknowledge how the Philadelphia Flyers are trying to trade away James Van Riemsdyk as well. That could, in theory, open up a spot for DeBrincat in the lineup as a goal scorer in the top 6, should you really try to push that narrative. Going over to New Jersey, though, they're also a team that has a lot of future as well. They've got a lot of left-handed defenseman prospects. I do think that the Chicago Blackhawks could use to get one of those guys. You're probably not going to pry away Luke Hughes, but maybe a Shakir Mukhamadullin could be someone of interest in that conversation. The Devils, of course, also have young forwards. You have Jack Hughes, you have Nico Hischier, you have Alexander Holtz, you have Jesper Bratt. There are a whole bunch of players that could be on the Blackhawks' radar. And so if you're trying to combine all of these factors, for Philadelphia, you might be looking at a package that says, okay, Alex DeBrincat in exchange for 5th overall, Joe Farabee, and maybe another prospect that you have significant value within, like, I don't know, who the heck is a good prospect in the Flyer system? Ronnie Attard, for example, or Samu Tuomola. From the New Jersey Devils, you could be looking at a guy like Jesper Bratt, the 2nd overall pick, as well as another prospect. Let's throw Shakir Mukhamadulin's name in there just for the sake of throwing in a name. Is this a type of package that you would be interested in if you're a Flyers or a New Jersey Devils fan? If you're a Blackhawks fan, what is it about this package that you like? Do you not like it? Whatever, let me know your thoughts in the comments. When you go over to the New York Islanders, though, I don't really see them as a potential team that has what it takes, mostly because when you talk about young forwards, I mean, they have Matthew Barzal. He's a very good player, but they're probably not going to trade that guy away after the entire John Tavares thing happened with them. But aside from that, young players on the team, you have Noah Dobson. He's probably not expendable either. You also have Anthony Beauvillier, who has been on the subject of potential trade rumors as well, so maybe it's Beauvillier you're looking at. Probably the 13th overall pick and maybe an extra pick on top of that, because 13th overall is not really all too high in comparison to 5th and 2nd. And then you have a few other prospects that are of significance, like Aatu Räty, for example. But that would be an absolute steal. I don't think the Islanders would be interested in trading away Räty. So, talk in the comments all your thoughts ultimately about the Alex DeBrincat trade request package. A first-round pick, a high one at that, a young NHL player, and a prospect. It's a pretty cut-and-paste formula as to what teams could be asking for when it comes to their top assets being available, but it usually goes down that way, right? I mean, even Jack Eichel was traded for Alex Tuch, who is not too old. You have Peyton Krebs, and you have a first-round draft pick on top of that, so that's sort of what the Sabres got in return for him. Of course, though, I acknowledge that there was a surgery element to that trade with Eichel that does not exist in a lot of these other trade idea discussions, but either way, talk in the comments all your thoughts about Chicago, Alex DeBrincat, these 3 teams over here, plus the Islanders, I guess, if you really wanted to force that one. You can let me know your thoughts about what the trade return should be if these are the parameters. What are you comfortable giving up if you have to give up a top pick, a young guy, and a prospect as well? I hope you enjoyed this British Trolls 99, and bye.